Okay, so we're gonna be talking about some Fatal Fury stuff, and Max Dude covered some info about the new Fatal Fury stuff. Oh god, I can't wait, bro. Look at that shit. Oh god.
We had the chance to dig in, properly dig into City of the Wolves. This game demos like another fighting game. You start playing this game and it feels kind of slow in its first hour. Now, don't get me wrong. That changes because after that first hour, you start to get used to the mechanics, the balance of the mechanics, when to use them, when they recover, and how you gauge those mechanics against the opponent, because all of this stuff is being manipulated as you attack and as you block. And it gets a lot faster, and it got better and better and better.
Oh, what was that?
There is another fighting game that I sort of played as a demo at Summer Games Fest back in 2022 that I, no kidding, had the exact same impression of in the first hour, and it was Street Fighter 6, where it felt kind of slow until I started fighting people that knew how to use the mechanics a bit more, and the game got significantly quicker, significantly better, and as soon as we were utilizing more of the tools the game had to offer, it started to be really fun, and these mechanics were engaging me almost around every single turn, and I really liked it. Dude, City of the Wolves is almost identical to how this game demos, in my personal opinion. And that comes as no shock because there's a lot of stuff, you know, the rev gauge and how it works and certain attacks that the rev gauge uses, that is very similar to Street Fighter 6, but just works in its own unique twist. It isn't the exact same game, but there is a lot of similarities. In Street Fighter 6, the drive gauge is used to have your offense, but also can be manipulated from defense. If you block attacks, it goes away. It's the exact same thing with the rev gauge. The higher the rev gauge goes, that's what you actually don't want. Revving up is bad. It leads to a state where you have to, like, you're effectively burned out, very similar to Street Fighter 6. And in that state, this is a new mechanic thing. There is no crazy, you know, hit the corner, get smacked into the corner, lead to a, you know, a dizzy state like Street Fighter 6. Instead, when you are effectively burned out from the rev gauge in City of the Wolves, you can be guard crushed. At that point, there's this little meter above your character's life bar, right below it, that doesn't get manipulated seemingly at all during a normal fight.
Damn, Terry with the
until you
Terry with the
out
ultra
completely, and you have to begin the cooldown process, you can be guard crushed. So the majority of attacks that you begin blocking during that mode will lead to a full guard crush state, not
which
really
is the
stun,
which is
but
the
a moment
what was it, the
where you
burnout.
are now about to take full damage. And that's one of the things they do to make the burnout state in Gauro 2 more threatening. You also can't just defend during it, and you know you don't have access to your EX moves. You are severely limited. So they want you to, you know, just like Street Fighter 6, very cautiously meter manage your rev gauge against your opponent's rev gauge, and then, you know, it's a push and pull in between. Also leads to really fun moments of, oh man, identify how much you got, how much can I possibly cash out to possibly get a kill or do as much damage. See, these things some of the most fun in Street Fighter 6 is like the meter management against the opponent, in my opinion. And
which is like what we called before about Fatal Fury, right? It's very much on the reins and the heels of Street Fighter 6, right? This is not like a bad thing, right? Now, a lot of other fighting games, like, it's kind of like, you know, what was it? History is repeating itself, like, history is repeating itself sort of thing, right? In the early 2020s, we had Guilty Gear Strive, and Guilty Gear Strive was super poppin', and once Guilty Gear Strive's time was in the sun, like, still, like, there, a lot of other fighting games are releasing their games, and, you know, Street Fighter 6, for example, and Tekken and Mortal Kombat, they were all coming out after Guilty Gear Strive, but it's clear that, like, those games are definitely following some Guilty Gear-esque, like, levels where characters are uniquely dynamic from one another, where in those, like, franchises, most of their characters feel relatively, like, the same. So after Guilty Gear Strive, with its, you know, unique anime fighter archetype, anime fighter like thesis about making each character different from one another. That definitely transferred over, well, not transferred, but not transferred, yeah, like transferred over to those games. And now like not Guilty Gear, sorry, Street Fighter, again, like Tekken and Mortal Kombat now have like characters that don't feel like they are not similarly close to one character. Yeah, like Ryu and Ken got like Shoryus and DPs and Tatsus, but they play hella differently from one another, which is like also like a callback from 5, because there were like too many Shotos, but they make this like well, like in front in your face that like, oh, we're gonna make characters different, you know. And so Fatal Fury is like Street Fighter 6. So, and also Fatal Fury, there's also Grand Blue to an extent, with the new Rising update giving characters like, what was it, DI and DR. So I don't know if they have like parries, but DI and DR are very Street Fighter 6 inspired.
It is arguably one of the most defensively, mechanically rich fighting games I think I've played in a long time. There's a lot of defensive mechanics in this game.
More defense.
I am just going to try
crazy.
to do my best to explain a few of them with some of this gameplay stuff in the background and hopefully give some examples. The obvious one is the parry-like state this game offers, which is just defense. You just defend by just tapping back. You know, obviously you can do so in the air. It recovers a little bit of health, but it doesn't really act like a third strike parry in any way.
Wow.
It doesn't give you, I think, a lot of positive frames. It's sort of like a Street Fighter 6 parry, but it's harder to do. This just defend timing isn't like a
Marco
huge
with the
catch
multi-punch
window like it is for even a third strike parry. It's kind of
look
tough.
at that.
It
Wow.
might be anywhere between like less than 5 frames, and if you
Fucking
want to
Street
properly
Fighter
just
ass
defend,
parries. Look at
you
that
gotta sort of be
shit.
aware of it. The nice part is timing isn't
Yeah,
like
look
a
at that
huge
shit,
catch
right?
window.
Yeah, we'll just like slow that down. Or yeah, where's the slow down feature? Right? Look at those like parries like in the air. That's very like Street Fighter Third Strike inspired. Wow. So they really want to make like Fatal Fury like an ode to Street Fighter Third Strike. That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. I mean, granted, Street Fighter 3 is a phenomenal fucking game. No, that's just not saying but, like, whatever. It's like, it's a great fighting game.
Kind of tough. It might be anywhere between like less than 5 frames, and if you want to properly just defend, you got to sort of be aware of it. The nice part is that it's tap back instead of forward, so it's not as threatening.
Oh, it's tap
but
back.
there's some pretty cool things. If you're just defending in the air and you have like a multi-hitting move, you can sort of just tap back multiple times, and it'll like auto catch the rest of the hits. So if you know that there's multiple hits, you can get some kind of cool moments or time some really cool just defends in the air. But that's not the end of just defend, because the way you properly attack after a just defend is by doing what I think is a just defend cancel. And after
Just
a just defend is
cancel.
over, or right as the animation completes, you can cancel the just defend into special moves or certain other attacks. You can't cancel them into like normal attacks. This timing is not easy.
Really?
This cancel window is extremely brief, so much so that some of the SNK folks that were there, some of the devs, were telling me that it's better to buffer the input of the special before the just defend and then press a button after, and they were right. It actually does get a little bit easier, but that requires a lot of foresight, dude. That'll require a lot of game familiarity. You can also cancel it into supers. So the problem is that the cancel window after a just defend is not lenient. This is incredibly tight. So that's cool. It's cool that there's some defensive.
You know what that reminds me of? You can immediately like cancel after a just defend. It reminds me of old school Darkstalkers. So in old school Darkstalkers, you had like this mechanic. I think it was like in Night Warriors, Darkstalkers Revenge, or maybe it was like in 3, but you had the ability to, once after like a guard, you can do a guard reversal, and that's like everybody's like guard reversal and Darkstalkers is like DP motion. It's literally like a move to like get off you sort of thing. But in here you can guard cancel any like special move and then go for offense. You know what I'm like getting at just as a preliminary like impression from like Max and all the other like fighting game content creators that got the chance to play Fatal Fury? It's like most fighting games now have like either more offense than defense or some with like more defense than offense. This is like this is like Fatal Fury is like a good equal of like both. You not only have like aggressive stuff with like, you know, the meter management and with the meter stuff and the supers and all that jazz, but you also have really good defensive options. Just defense and guard cancels. I wonder if like there's more.
The mechanics that require really, really specific timing. K.O. The other one is from what I think is called an advanced defense.
The announcer needs work,
this is
though.
like the red parry. And
I will say the announcer needs work.
And yeah, when you are blocking multiple hits of attacks, you can cancel them into a just defend. So the craziest part is you'll be holding back, and if an attack hits you 2 times, you can tap forward, and then after that tap forward, you enter a just defend state even while blocking. And you can cancel that into, you know, as we said, special moves. But once again, that's another really difficult thing you're doing, like a 2-frame window to press back to forward, canceling that into another thing. Again, more defensive stuff that is pretty dang difficult to do, but will lead to really cool moments. Another thing that I think is relatively brand new to this build, which is pretty exciting, is this high crush, low crush system. So
high crush, low crush.
I believe it is the heavy punch attack as well as the R1 command. You can do down with those 2 buttons, and you effectively do an anti-air, something that crushes high attacks and mid attacks. If you do it neutrally, you get a low crush attack, something that will specifically go over low attacks. The crazy part about this is that these moves you can just do. You can just sort of like toss them out. You can't cancel into them, but they look kind of like command normals from previous like KOF games and stuff like that. These mechanics were also present in like the original Gauro, so it makes sense that it's here. But there's some new stuff going on here. And if you properly time it, and this is a pretty, I think it's a tight window, like somewhere between maybe 3 to 5 frames. If you time the attack of your high crush or low crush with the appropriate attack, so it's like, oh, I'm gonna do the low crush, here comes the low attack, you'll see it go over and the game enters like Tekken slow mode. This only happens during this attack in the whole game. The same thing will happen with a high crush. If you like properly crush a high attack or a mid attack, you enter this slow mode and then you hit them with the strike and you get mega bonus frames. You get like a bunch of like a big counter hit state after, and if you have the proper combo to follow up, yeah, you get full combo. I think the damage is slightly mitigated in that situation, but that's a new thing. I do not think that was here before in the previous game. We were kind of wondering why this mechanic was here in the
so high crush, low crush attacks, right? High crush, low crush attacks are also fighting game like fundamental terms. When you dodge a like a low attack, it becomes a low crush. When you dodge a high or a mid, it becomes a high crush attack. I believe so, right? So in this game, if you dodge either one of these things and get like the appropriate like result, you get like max damage sort of thing, and it enters a slow-mo realm. I'm trying to like think of is like if there's like any fighting game that's kind of Guilty Gear, right? With the slow-mo counter system, and you could get like extra stuff that you normally wouldn't get in like in other like normal hit combos. Yeah, like Guilty Gear Strive. So the only problem I feel is that, yeah, it makes sense though, because KOF, SNK are really like not only execution but also combo centric based games. So we can have like not only punish counter or wild like punish, we also have like crazy combos that can do somewhere to like 40 to 50% health, right? If we're just like talking about KOF, oh man, like get like a raw like shatter strike against somebody, oh my goodness, your health bar is gone. Even with like blue Maximo, when you like spend all of your resources, like bro. So yeah, it makes sense. Kind of like disappointed, but the way of how like SNK games are, if you implement like a low high crush system like this, yeah, I could see they want to swing by like that.
Previous build that I was just mentioning, and now it seems that oh, this is here to sort of like toss out in between block pressure, where people cannot just commit themselves to the same block strings over and over again. That's pretty crazy.
Ah. Oh, look at this big combo. Full throttle!
Another thing that we got to toss out that is another big defensive mechanic and is arguably pretty similar to Drive Impact is SPG. And your SPG attack per character does have armor. And on many characters, we see it effectively soak armor, and if it is a counter hit of some kind, similar to SF6, it enters a big counter hit state, like a crumple state, and you get a big combo. This thing can also be done in the air, dude. However,
in the air.
SPG attacks are not the same for every single character. You press them with heavy punch and heavy kick. However, on characters like Marco, I started noticing
heavy punch. Yeah, definitely Street Fighter 6. I know that it put like heavy punch, heavy kick. Yeah, that's jeez, bro. Like I said, history repeats itself. Art begets art. That's the phrase. Art begets art. But I'm not saying that's like a bad thing. But like, yeah, they're not that slick. I'll love them for that. But yeah, like you could also use it in the air. Holy shit, bro. That makes sense for SNK games. Yo, bro, imagine like DI like in the air when someone is about to do like a air like jump in. Oh shit, bro. We already got like DP, so that thought is like a stupid thought, but like yo, imagine if they did that.
It acts a bit different on this guy. It doesn't really give me the same thing. His is also cancelable into some stuff, and he can seemingly end EX attacks with SPG gauge. He gets like a combo ender using his SPG gauge. I'm like, I don't know if Rock has that. Like, I didn't get a chance to test everybody, but it almost felt like everybody's SPG attack does something different and like unique. So there's more defensive, crazy things that the game has to offer that I really didn't get a chance to mess around with before.
Oh, Shokoken.
Another thing I got to finally mess around with that I just didn't get a chance to get familiar with is like feint cancels. And yes, you can feint cancel attacks in City of the Wolves and Fatal Fury, meaning if you do a normal attack, you can cancel into a feint animation, which is like a beginning startup of like a fireball or like another special move, and then, you know, cancel it into another normal or whatever the heck you might want to. It does lead to some of the most damaging combos, where if you get like a close range button, feint cancel into another like heavy close range button into big combo. Yeah, that's
gonna make them guess with feints. Ooh. It's over. This is me. God, dude.
There's even more stuff, and this is another defensive related mechanic. You can also just whiff these animations at any point if you want. The crazy part is that on like Rock and Terry, I didn't get a chance to test with everybody. If you do their Shining Knuckle move, like Fireball Back Punch, you can cancel the animation of it. Like, it does not have to travel the full distance on the light one or the heavy one. You can quite literally cut that animation in half with a feint cancel.
What the fuck?
Bro, like, you can bait people that I'm gonna commit to this full move that normally goes full screen and is really punishable, and all of a sudden just stop dead in their tracks.
So, am I gonna see, like, let's say, like, Fatal Fury City of the Wolves comes out, right? And feints are gonna be like a thing. And then there's just gonna be like some Tekken ass like wave dashing like movement, no like engaging sort of thing, or just like make them bait, like they're gonna bait out like a move, or like throw out like a fireball, or like do like heavy, what was it, heavy hard edge if you're playing like rock. That's good. That's just gonna be a lot of like baiting. My only problem is that if there's gonna be like so much baits, then the opportunity for like a whiff like punish is going to be relatively like small, though. Maybe like we haven't seen, we don't have like the game ourselves, right? We're not seeing any competitive like impressions of Fatal Fury, so we only have to like go on with like what we got from fighting game content creators at this point.
And now
Fatal Fury won't be out until like 2025, like mid 2025 at best.
things that you have to do like in neutral or block strings that are like 2 to 4 to 5
What the
frames
hell?
of defensive mechanics,
Goddamn,
not
Terry,
combos.
Terry with
These
the
things
triple
are
like
difficult to time.
what was it? Shoulder
that you have to do,
tackle feint.
like in
yeah, look at
neutral
this.
or block strings that are like
Like he did like rise to tackle feint, then shoulder tackle feint.
2 to 4 to 5 frames
Yeah, like the Terry options are like limitless.
of defensive and yeah, Terry. Those super inputs for every character gets their like level 1 and 2 supers. They get 2 of those, and also their SPG. To me, it looked like every single character was standardized in the same way that KOF 15 sort of standardized a lot of the super motions for the big supers in that game, the climax supers. The same thing's kind of happening here. They're making that every character, you don't have to remember every single character's like big climax move, big SPG attack in City of the Wolves.
Right.
They've sort of been standardized across the board. I can understand why that might upset some people, but my god, man, it made it much easier just to know, oh, I'm in SPG, I need to do this, I do kind of agree with that. I did kind of agree with it in KOF 15, so I do think that's a very welcome change. Speaking of,
I think that's an overall like astounding like change, right? Because here's the thing, right? KOF, look at all the blurry and the motion. Look at all this shit with the motion blur, right? Rock's face is about to do like instant transmission Dragon Ball Z style. The thing about SNK games is that they're notorious for being super execution based as all hell, right? We got the most infamous examples of super inputs known to man. There's like one of them is like Terry's, which is like Power Geyser. You have to do quarter circle forward, and then what was it? Not quarter circle forward, or is it quarter circle back? No, it's quarter circle forward, quarter circle forward, back, and then down forward or something like that for like a Power Geyser. Geese Howard's like pretzel motion for doing the Raging Storm. There are like a lot more infamous examples of like just egregious SNK, because they're like if not for like Capcom, then they're like the like hardcore fighting game ass people they are. And a lot of like their inputs for some of their like older games are very, very like tough to like pull off. Like it's literally like the RDC world, like you have to throw the controller like 2 times sort of shit, right? Wait. Excuse me. But then we got slowly into more of the modern SNK fighting games, starting with like 14, and we start to notice that, okay, 14 not really like a good example because everybody's level 3 is pretty much different, so there's no universal level 3 for all characters, and kind of robust auto combo system until KOF 15, where everybody's level 3 is half circle back, not half circle back, quarter circle back, half circle forward for level 3s. Sam Show is like, everybody is like level 3 SSM. is or everybody's super is quarter circle forward, medium slash, heavy slash. So yeah, that's pretty like dope that SNK is making their games accessible to a newer like audience, because once again, notoriously SNK always has um difficult as hell inputs, and I'm glad that they're taking like that step to make to make their games easier to touch for the newest SNK consumer, right? So that's pretty cool. I love it, right? Um, Wondering how far they will go. Well, they already got like a special style in this game. Wondering how far that will go, like making like Street Fighter levels of like, is there going to be like a modern control T-Zoc somewhere, you know? Could be. Could be, you know, but I'm glad that they're making that change. I think that was I think like they also have, well, everyone's level 3 was like different in OG Garo, but everybody's super was like quarter circle forward or quarter circle back, something like that. No crazy mechanics. I'll have to like double check. But once again, still that's a good awesome change.
But I was already optimizing some stuff in the corner really hard. This is going to be pretty similar to KOF 15, where in that game, you know, you kind of optimize the hell out of your max mode combos. That's kind of what these are. They took the best element that is in KOF over the past like couple of games, which is big cool max mode stuff, and now you get to do it in this game like right off the bat. You know, you have access to that in the first combos you do. It's a choice of yours. Do you want to burn yourself out doing it, or do you want to sort of like balance that gauge against your opponent? So I love it, man. It's insanely fun.
Right, yeah, because that's also very true. Like KOF 15, you hardly ever see people popping like max mode right at like the start, like blue max mode, because blue max mode technically isn't worth it until you can get like some big mega doink hit on the opponent. Most of the time people will just use, most of the time players and competitors of KOF will just use like pink max mode to get like optimal stuff. But still, like you see like characters just like, you know, being back and forth, like gauging on the next like whiff punch, and you only get to see like max mode like there. So I see that they're not only Street Fighter, but they're also going in the route of like Tekken to an extent, if I could like base my impressions on that. Because with Tekken, you want to activate like heat shit. You can activate heat shit like just as like a startup, and then you could cancel it with like back, or you could do it like mid combo, and then you could get like big mega like heat plus frames or some shit like that, you know? So it wants like to encourage like some of like the cool shit that modern fighting games want to advertise to newer player bases, and that's like, you know, big as fuck like cool mechanics, whether it be like a drive system or a heat or a rev. We want to make those things outward and forward and make it aggressive, right? The fact that like Fatal Fury is technically close to like aggressive, where the rev gauge is like, you know, you can almost do anything. Like the possibilities are endless, but also you have to be careful of those possibilities. Otherwise, if you get overheated, those possibilities, you're going to be Icarus crashing down to the sun. You're going to be super like nerfed, you know? So it's smart, right? You got hella aggression, but you also have to be really careful, and defense is also really like a key. But even then, like defense, you can't be like straight up defensing all the time, so it's like a good like mix of both worlds.
Was selectable in the build, but apparently it was. So I do think that is kind of an issue.
Let me look at that real quick. Puffs out his chest.
Selectable in the build, but apparently it was.
Damn, he throws away his gi and everything. Holy shit, that looks dope.
In the build, but apparently.
Damn, bro.
I'm hoping that you can just give players a little bit of taste of some of that crazy cool stuff, because, dude, they're not going to be hitting these these insane JD cancels and air JDs and all this insane stuff. These like 2-frame advancing guard things, and like there are so many ridiculously hard things to do in this game that people will almost never get to see, that they should see all the other cool flashy stuff happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's like the nature for like fighting games on like a casual level. We just want to see cool shit. Right? Like we want to see like cool stuff happen. Hence this is the why like auto combos were created. This is why like accessibility features are made for people that are not too well versed into like fighting games to begin with, because I give like my fighting game to my niece or something like that, right? Very like little, but every time like she comes over, we play like Smash, but Smash is like the perfect example of like, you know, accessibility at its like finest. You press an attack like comes out. You press a special comes out. Once you get like final like Smash or like the big glowing state, you press like special, you get final Smash, right? We just want to see like cool stuff and not be mitigated by like all these like, you know, complex as hell like motions for like a fighting game for a casual. A casual's like interest for a fighting game is a very short like burst period. You suggest like a friend for a fighting game, right? Let's say like Street Fighter 6. They like it. There's modern mode, there's even dynamic mode where they can like auto do combo, auto like neutral your ass, and that's only on local. But just pressing like a button for like a casual feels like so powerful because they feel like they can do something instead of being restricted and held back. If the game was just like modern, or if the game was just classic or modern, hell, take away like modern, then Street Fighter wouldn't get like that huge audience that it has. Accessibility is so important for bridging the gap to new players into fighting games, for it not only, you know, boosts up units for said fighting game and for that fighting game's company, but it generates new fans to appreciate and love the craft of that genre, right? It's super important.
That's my big criticism with City of the Wolves. But from a perspective of my own, somebody that like loves these characters and thinks that this game is arguably one of the coolest goddamn looking fighting games ever, I haven't stopped thinking about it, man. I could have sat there for 6 more hours if I had the opportunity to do so. So I cannot wait to play more of this game. And I'm very much looking forward to the single player offerings in the future. I think if I did have a personal criticism outside of like, you know, speaking maybe for other people that were playing the game and just observing them, some of the light confirms in the game is kind of lacking. For example, Rock is pretty hard to do anything out of general light attacks. So, you know, a lot of characters get cool break attacks. Terry gets a really cool break attack combo. Rox is pretty hard to do from light attacks in any way. He doesn't really seem to get much. So I don't know if it's their intention to have him lack that because he's sort of a mix lord. But Terry gets it and Marco gets it, that's for sure. They get, you know, really cool light confirms into, you know, special break into more specials or more breaks, yada, yada, yada. And Rock is kind of hard to do that. You can't really do crouching short, crouching jab, heavy rising tackle break. It works like in the corner. You have to be super close. So it seemed kind of weird. Either way, goddamn, what an enjoyable game. I can't wait for you guys to eventually try this. Hopefully there will be something of a public playable build at like EVO, because it was at EVO Japan. This is the first time the majority of the audience of people that we know have been able to play
I
it.
want like a demo or a
anyway,
beta.
Appreciate you dudes watching.
Beta.
I'll be back.
But yeah, just to like in sum up, yeah, gonna be offensive but also defensive, and I'm glad they're also taking accessibility routes. That's great.